Today we're diving into the incredible story of the world's most famous and maybe most infamous diamond. It's a wild tale of fallen empires, brutal conquest, and a powerful legend that has shaped the fate of kings for centuries. Let's get into it.
Right off the bat, this ancient saying tells you everything you need to know. It's not just a gem, it's a symbol of ultimate power and, according to the legend, ultimate tragedy. This is the so-called curse of the Kohinoor, and you're about to see just how its shadow looms over every part of this story.
Okay, let's set the scene. The year is 1849, and at the heart of this story is a boy king, just 11 years old. His name was Dalip Singh, and he was the last Maharaja of the powerful Sikh Empire in the Punjab region of India. Now, his kingdom had just been defeated by the British in a brutal war, and as part of the, let's be honest, humiliating peace treaty that followed, the young boy was forced to give up his most valuable possession. And let's be crystal clear, this was not a gift. It was an act of surrender. And just like that, this legendary diamond begins a journey of thousands of miles, all the way from India to England, and into the hands of the most powerful woman in the world, Queen Victoria. That single moment kicks off a massive controversy that is still going on today. So you have to be asking, what happened to the kid who gave away the diamond? Well, Maharaja Dalip Singh's tragic life is what many people see as the first modern piece of evidence for the Kohinoor's curse. I mean, his life was just heartbreaking. He was separated from his mother, shipped off to England at 15, and basically raised as an English aristocrat. He even became friends with the royal family. But even with the generous allowance, he was a king without a kingdom. Later in life, he tried to rebel, to reclaim his heritage, but it was too late. He failed and ended up dying alone and broke in a Paris hotel. A pretty stark ending for a man who was born to be a king. Now, to really understand the stone Dalip Singh lost and the curse he might have inherited, we have to rewind. I mean, way, way back. Where did this legendary stone, this mountain of light, even come from? Well, while some legends trace it back to ancient gods, most historians are pretty sure it was dug up in the famous Kohinoor mines of Golconda. And you have to understand how big of a deal this place was. For centuries, this region was basically the only place on Earth where you could find diamonds. So nearly every famous ancient diamond you've ever heard of, yeah, it came from here. The diamond's early history is pretty murky. It probably first showed up sometime between 1100 and 1300. The first rumor of it comes from an Hindu text in 1306. And get this, that's the same text that supposedly warns about the curse. But the first hard proof we have is from 1526, when the Mughal Emperor Babur, yeah, the guy whose dynasty built the Taj Mahal, wrote about owning a massive diamond. A century later, his descendant Shah Jahan put it in the most spectacular throne ever made, the Peacock Throne. The diamond was literally one of the peacock's eyes. For about 200 years, the diamond was a stable symbol of the Mughal Empire's power. But then the 18th century hit, and everything just shattered. The gem entered the most violent phase of its history, and this is where that whole curse thing starts to feel, well, very real. By 1739, the Mughal Empire was getting weak, and that's like blood in the water for invaders. The Persian ruler Nadir Shah storms into Delhi and completely sacks the city. The amount of loot he took was so huge, it took 700 elephants, 4,000 camels, and 12,000 horses to carry it all away. And in that massive haul was the Peacock Throne, with its priceless diamond eye. The story goes that when Nadir Shah finally saw the gem up close, he was so stunned by it that he exclaimed, Kohinoor, which is Persian for Mountain of Light. And just like that, the diamond had its famous name. True or not, the name stuck, and it marked the beginning of a new, very bloody chapter. And this is where the curse seems to kick into high gear. I mean, just look at this pattern. Nadir Shah, the guy who named it, assassinated by his own men. His grandson, tortured with molten lead. A later owner, Zaman Shah, was blinded with hot needles by his own brother. That brother was then overthrown himself and had to flee to Lahore, taking the diamond with him, which, crazy enough, brought the gem full circle back towards India. From there, the diamond was acquired by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who was Dalip's father, bringing it into the Sikh Empire. And that, of course, is right where it was when it passed into British hands. So, how did this ancient Indian gem get turned into a symbol of the British Empire? You'd think when the Kohinoor was finally put on display in London, people would have been blown away. But the reaction was, meh. They'd all heard these legends about a mountain of light, but what they saw was a stone that didn't really sparkle. The Times newspaper even called it a lifeless piece of glass. Ouch. So this was pretty embarrassing for the royals. Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, basically decided the diamond needed a makeover. He had it recut from its original, historic Indian style into a modern oval shape, designed to make it sparkle for European eyes. But this was more than just a cosmetic change. It was about reshaping a piece of Indian history to fit a Western idea of beauty. The result was, yeah, a much sparklier diamond. But the cost was huge. The recutting process shaved off over 40% of the diamond's original size. It went from a massive 186 carats down to just over 105. An irreplaceable piece of its history was literally ground into dust, a decision that is still really controversial.
Now, the British knew all about the diamond's dark reputation, so they found a clever loophole. The legend says that only a god or a woman can wear the diamond without suffering. So the royals' family made a rule. The Kohinoor would only ever be worn by a female monarch or the wife of a king. And to this day, no reigning British king has ever worn it.
Today, the diamond is kept in the Tower of London as part of the British crown jewels. But its story is far from over. And that brings us to the modern, super complicated, and really heated debate over who its rightful owner is. Okay, so here's the heart of the modern debate. The British government has always said the diamond was legally acquired through that Treaty of Lahore. But for many people, a treaty signed by an 11-year-old boy whose kingdom had just been conquered, well, that looks less like a gift and more like the spoils of war. It's become a powerful symbol of colonial exploitation. And the whole thing is made even more complicated because multiple countries want it back. India claims it because it was taken from the Sikh Empire, but then Pakistan points out that the capital of that empire, Lahore, is in their country. And then Afghanistan makes a claim, saying it was stolen from them before the Sikhs even got it. As you can see, each country has a legitimate historical point, but they all conflict with each other. And legally, it's a total deadlock. There's a big international agreement from 1970 about returning cultural artifacts. But here's the catch. It doesn't apply to anything taken before 1970. Since the Kohinoor was taken in 1849, there's no legal requirement for Britain to return it. So the whole issue is stuck in the world of diplomacy and public pressure. So in the end, we're left with a diamond that's two things at once. It's a breathtaking jewel and a royal crown, but it's also a painful symbol of a bloody colonial past. It brought misery to nearly every man who owned it, and yet today, entire nations are fighting to call it their own. The big question that's still unanswered is, what should its final chapter be?